As per the original novel, the group endured 9 times 9 equals 81 calamities during their journey to the west. Yes, Chinese people love doing math, big surprise. Out of these, around 2/3 were caused by encounters with Yaoguai. In our video game, they're also the absolute most common kind of enemy, keeping the gameplay fresh and dynamic. For this video, let's delve into the role they play in Chinese culture and how they're used to drive the narrative in both Journey to the West and the Black Myth universe. Today, let's tan one down, Yaoguai. I really appreciate Game Science's decision to stick with the term Yaoguai for the English translation of this game, rather than opting for something with preconceived connotations. Like I mentioned in my previous video, cultural references don't always have perfect translations, since languages often emerge from the culture itself. Some words simply don't have a true equivalent. The best approach is just to keep the original term and understand it on its own terms. Like how we call it pizza and not Italian pie. Deciding not calling Yaoguais demon or monsters or anything else actually helps us more accurately establish this universe. Alright, Chinese class. First, let's get literal about the word Yaoguai. Before we dive in, it's important to understand that throughout its evolution, Chinese or Han languages have used words, not letters, as the most basic component of language. Each word is a single syllable with its own meaning. So when you encounter a term with multiple syllables, you can safely assume it probably carries multiple layers of meaning. So now the word yao is quite key here. So by definition, it refers to an irregular property in something, usually with negative implications. It's often used as an adjective but can also function as a noun, referring to things possessing such qualities. As the language evolved, it also came to be accepted to mean deceptive or bewitching. The word guai is similar in the sense that it means strange or unorthodox as an adjective, but can also be used as a noun for something odd or abnormal. So linguistically, a snake yaoguai can be snake guai, a bear yaoguai bear guai, and so on. Although we do use another word jing quite frequently as well, so they're generally smarter or stronger. Therefore, a word yaojing as a synonym of yaoguai is created. For example, the boss of chapter 1 is actually called Black Bear Jing in Chinese. But let's not make things too complicated and just stick with the more familiar terminologies for now. The two words have been used together so often that they've become a specific term by now for these mythical beings with unsettling, unpredictable properties. Typically, this refers to an object or an animal that has been around long enough. They evolve into something more human-like, but still carry traces of its former existence. And just like that, you got yourself a Yaoguai. It's important to also note that Yaoguai aren't inherently evil. We tend to think that their nature is more shaped by their life experiences. Depending on their origin story, they develop different personalities and strengths. While many end up sociopathic, they're still capable of human emotions and desires, be it for friendship, family, or power. Now that the technicalities are covered, let's explore how these concepts are woven into the Chinese culture. Chinese folklore and literature have long featured Yaoguai, with Journey to the West being a prime example. Some of these depictions have even become proper nouns in mainstream culture. For example, the female fox guai, 狐狸精 in Mandarin, is a derogatory term for a woman who uses her lure to manipulate men, often breaking up families in the process. With endless possibilities come an endless line of symbolism or metaphors from different Yaoguai that will fit right into the Chinese view of life, where all of the good and bad in our lives can draw a parallel to the rules of nature. In the Journey to the West universe, the flexibility of Yaoguai as plot devices have helped shape the hierarchical worldview of the novel. To the average reader, the Yaoguais are mere enemies on the hero's path and parts of the 81 calamities. They bring variety to the events in the book to keep the story interesting. Yaoguai want to hurt the monk, the team protects the monk. By passing these trials, the travelers go through a process of self-cultivation to Buddhahood. By defeating the threats and enduring all the hardships, they demonstrate their strength and prove their worth, symbolizing how achievements are always built on struggles and perseverance. In the end, our persistent and wisdomous heroes win. I mean, this is of course a valid interpretation of the story. It's a fantasy novel, not a history book. The Buddhas and Taoist sages in this universe also do not represent the actual Buddhism and Taoism religions in our lives. They're just symbols of the ruling class. Whatever interpretation resonates with you would be valid. But for this video, let's challenge the more obvious impression and try to get more black mythy. Let's start with Wukong and the gang, which is a more conventional view of good defeats evil. For them, Yaoguai are obstacles to overcome. Their entire journey is made up of tests of physical endurance and moral integrity. They do not know what lies in front of them. Our heroes eliminate evil and promote the greater good throughout their trip. Loyalty, friendship, dedication, humility, power, wisdom, and kindness are all just tools. Unconditionally cooperate to protect our master from the swarming threats, march forward despite mistakes and struggles. Meanwhile, learn to overcome your own weaknesses. Like Wukong works on his impatience, impulsiveness, and anger, Bajie fights his gluttony, lust, and laziness, Xuanzang is tested on his faith and compassion, and Sha Wujing, the Sand Monk, practices the concept of loyalty and humility. As the trials were deliberately laid out to push their cultivation practices and force their inner transformation, we can also see each of the characters as an aspect of each and one of us. Where Wukong is our heart and thoughts, the Tang Monk is our existence and experience, Bajie is our desires and greed, and the Sand Monk being human moralities. Every one of us has a Lingshan of our own. The only way to success is to be our team of heroes, with eyes on the target and work on all aspects of ourselves. The true journey is the spiritual practice along the way. Otherwise, the story of the journey to the west would be just a sentence saying, Wukong did a 108,000-mile flip, grabbed the scriptures, and flew back before dinner. Our Black Myth video game, though, was highly critical of the ruling class, Lingshan of the Buddha and the Celestial Court. It ambitiously calls the motives of this trip altogether into question. Per the story, the journey was deliberately set into motion by Guan Yin to fulfill the Buddha's plan of spreading Buddhist influences in China. Sure, part of this stems from the fact that Sanzang also happens to be the reincarnation of Buddha's apprentice Jin Chanzi. But ultimately, this journey was engineered for the benefit of Buddhist influence as a whole. On top of that, the Taoist Celestial Court also had its own hand in the mix. While I don't want to dive into their complex stance in this video, both sides saw the trip through for their own reasons. But at what cost, really? What they assembled was a special task force with 3 mercenaries with celestial level powers, led by a reincarnated Buddha riding a dragon, and told to believe that the success of their trip heavily depends on them bulldozing through anything in their path. All the Yaoguais running their own little locals along the way, just collateral damage. While the team can handle the small fries easily, they also have strings to pull for the tougher ones. Like cleaning a path to build a highway, their sole focus is eliminating any obstructions. The only acceptable outcome is the one that furthers their own mission. I get it, most of these Yaoguai weren't exactly saints, and from a human perspective, they do not deserve much sympathy. But you've got to admit, they were a little hard done by when this unstoppable force just rolled in, handing out capital punishment and flipping their worlds upside down. The celestial powers didn't ever stop to consider how many lives in the moral realm would be upended. If the cost of Buddha's self-cultivation process is based on the loss of others, is this still considered as an act of mercy, like how the Buddhist belief promoted? Now let's revisit the necessity of the journey itself. When Buddha decided to spread Buddhism to the east, his approach was to encourage Tang Mong, a reincarnation of his student, embark on a pilgrimage to retrieve sacred scriptures. 4 celestial-level non-Buddhist bodyguards were arranged to protect him through a required 81 trials as a rite of passage. And here's where things get interesting. If Buddha's real goal was to save all sentient beings from suffering, why choose such a convoluted path? Why all the uncertainty of relying on Taoist bodyguards to protect this one gullible monk who trusts everyone he meets, all while rumors spread that eating his flesh would grant immortality? Why does the all-powerful Buddha not simply deliver the scriptures himself and end the suffering? Can we question whether this journey even needed to happen? Did Buddha ever truly care about the mortal realm, or was there a bigger, more cynical agenda at play here? Here's a thought. What if Buddha never cared about stopping the suffering of samsara, but instead only wanted to preserve a balance of supply and demand? After all, without suffering, who would turn to him for salvation? Without the Joker, what's Batman? If there's no pain, How can people appreciate the Buddha's might? Could it be that the very existence of suffering is what keeps the Western Paradise's spiritual economy running? If all suffering were truly alleviated, would people still worship? Without the worshipping, where would the tributes and offerings even come from? This is where the Yaoguai fit in. They are the wild cards that disrupt this balance. They create localized chaos, keeping things unstable enough in the mortal realm for celestial powers to maintain control. Yet they're also weak enough to be easily disposed of when they step out of line. Albeit a much darker take of the original material, as players living in year 2024, there definitely is a lot more implied views on our own world. Out of all the Yaoguai Wukong defeated, the 5 bosses of each chapter in this game were saved by the Western Paradise in the original story. These were all written as much tougher enemies, where Wukong had to ask for external intervention in the original journey. Coincidentally, they all converted to Buddhist control, planting the seeds for the Black Myth rendition. Next in our Yaoguai series, we'll break down the lores of these 5 bosses and explore what Wukong's death means for these Yaoguai kings, and for us as readers. Hopefully this all makes sense. I will continue to explore the related lores of Black Myth Wukong. If you like this format, please like and subscribe, and comment down below if there's anything else you want to see elaborated in this story, and I will do the research for you. Thank you for deciding to spend the time for this video. Until next time, bye!